Welcome to the BLIP Insurance Podcast, where we help insurance agents build successful agencies. My name is Josh Berg with Blue Lion Insurance Partners, and on this episode, I talk with Jason Denniston of Denniston Insurance. This was a fun one. I've known Jason for over a year now, and we've talked pretty much weekly about marketing and insurance. Since he's a newer agent, just shy of 2 years, I thought it would be great to go over what to avoid and what to focus on for newer agents. Even though he focuses on Medicare and life, and we focus on property and casualty, the ideas are interchangeable. So before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by our master insurance agency, Blue Lion Insurance Partners, or BLIP for short. So we provide access to insurance companies, 100% commission, bonuses, support, software, and systems with no production requirements. And you maintain full, true ownership. So find out more information at bluelioninsurancepartners.com. And without further delay, here's my conversation with Jason.
So here's the story. My oldest boy has always wanted to have a lemonade stand. Okay. And for the longest time, he was born 2008, so he just turned 11.
Okay.
And so he just had a birthday last month. Always wanted to have a lemonade stand, but up until a few months ago, we lived on a state highway. And we're like, dude, you can't have a lemonade stand on a state highway. And so, I don't know, are you familiar with Junior Achievement?
Oh yeah, yep.
So Junior Achievement has Lemonade Day.
Okay.
And so we're across the country, all the kids and all the programs have this lemonade stand all on the same day. So in our town, there's like 40 lemonade stands. And the boys are like, hey, we want to do lemonade stand. I was like, sure. Yeah. I mean, you've always wanted to, let's do it. I said, but here's the deal. We're not selling lemonade for 50 cents a piece. You can't make any money at that.
Right.
And so we what they say, you either need to be like the cheapest or the most expensive.
Right.
And so we went the most expensive route. I think we sold at that event, the first event, we were selling our lemonades for $3 a cup, 24-ounce cup, fresh squeezed lemonade. Within 3 hours, we made $100 an hour. And so the first hour paid for all the supplies and everything, and then they each got $100.
Dude, wait. So this is at an event that's 100% lemonade stands?
Well, so that's the other thing. Everyone else was downtown at the courthouse. And I was like, we need to hire traffic. We can't be competing directly against. So on the same day, I booked in at Walmart. And so we were outside of Walmart selling lemonade.
Nice.
And, I mean, we did Facebook videos. They got a Facebook page. I, did green screen shots with them and in the hot tub. We did lemonade taste test building up to the event just to try and, my goal really for the whole thing, well, I guess before I jump there, so they made so much money. They were like, dude, we wanted to, yeah, exactly. He's like, we do it some more. And I was like, yeah, but we're gonna partner. So we became partners. And I said, so we're not gonna just do lemonade, but we went out and made a full out lemonade stand, lemon shake-ups. We got, a DBA, we got sales tax license, we got
dude, you guys, and you told me that you guys cleared like $4,000 or something at one of the events you did.
Yeah, I think it was like $3,300.
3,300.
Yeah, cleared. So
that's
12
amazing.
hours. I mean, we were like nonstop making lemon shake-ups all day.
We're in the wrong business, man.
I know. There's people that do it full-time lemonade vendors, work 3 days a week, 9 months out of the year.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get this thing going. So, hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. Let me say, this is the BLIP Insurance Agency Podcast. Today I've got Jason Denniston on with me. He owns Denniston Insurance, and it's a life and health agency primarily. And so Jason's background is he was in the church world for about 18 years, and then he decided to open up an insurance agency just shy of 2 years ago. So anyway, here we are. Since Jason's fairly new to the industry, I mean, 2 years, that's actually not fairly new, but new enough that you remember some of the lessons, right? And
Oh yeah,
so,
for sure, for sure.
so I wanted to have Jason on so that we could just kind of discuss maybe pitfalls for newer agents, or things that are helpful to remember or know, or things that, we maybe wished we would have known when we were starting out, just for really primarily kind of for newer agencies. And, if you're watching this and you're not a newer agent and you got something to chime in with, please do. So Jason, let's go back to kind of the beginning, I guess, when you're leaving the church world and you're starting this insurance agency. Let's start there. So day one, what does this look like? Did you have a plan? Did you know what you were doing? Or you're just like, I'm just doing this thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So, even backing up one step before that, like my position was eliminated. And
Okay.
so I was like, but
Okay. So you weren't fired on negative terms. Let's
right.
get
Yeah,
that
yeah,
out
yeah. I
there
just
right
got
now. Okay.
downsized. And, but even before that, I was looking for a side hustle, something that I could do to help pay off some debt, to, get a little ahead, save for retirement. And nothing ever seemed to fit for me. And all my friends, they have these little side gigs, side hustles. I'm like, that's awesome for them, but it never seemed to be something that I could do. And one day on my day off, I'm looking through like Glassdoor, just surfing around. I'm like, insurance, I could do that.
Yep.
And then, and I never really went forward with it. I fast forward about 6 weeks, and I find out that I'm losing my job. In the church world, you don't get any unemployment, and there wasn't a real severance package there. It was just kind of like the church was financially struggling, so they didn't have the means to do a lot. That's why they had to downsize. And so here we were, and I was like, you know what? Like, the insurance thing. That's what it was. And so I got a book. I read it, went, took my license, and
Oh, you got an insurance book on passing your test, not insurance
yeah,
for
yeah,
dummies. Okay.
right, yeah. No, I bought it. I just read a book to pass my license and went and took the test. So,
Wow. Okay. So you got your license now. Now what?
yeah, exactly. That's my question.
So were you thinking life and health, or were you thinking, insurance as this
Yeah,
general?
yeah, I was always life and health. Like, I don't know why I had this preconceived notion that the one thing I didn't want to do was P&C. I
Okay.
was like, you guys, I do not want someone calling me at 8 o'clock saying, a shopping cart banged into my car at Walmart, and so I just always, and maybe it was a preconceived notion, but I just had always felt like life and health was where I was want to be. A good friend of mine was he was in securities and life and health. And so I met with him. He said, hey, here's where there is some opportunity. Here's some products that are available to be sold. And I said, hey, this really looks like something I'd like to do.
Okay. So let's go to first piece of advice. Starting out, what would that be for a newer
First,
agent,
yeah.
or
So,
even maybe somebody switching fields or careers or whatever? First
yeah,
piece
I
of
mean,
advice.
my biggest, like, I look back, and there's definitely some things that I wish I knew, because really coming into it, I knew nothing,
Right.
right? I knew nothing about insurance, I knew nothing about running a business. I'd never been in sales before. But probably my biggest piece of advice, I would say, is like, have some money.
So
You
have
know,
the money saved up so you can last through the first few months.
ideally, yeah. I mean, because there's a runway. That's the way I look at it. Your money is your runway. And as long as you're like, your business is like the airplane, and you're trying to get, in the air, you're trying to get taken off. And depending on, how agile of an airplane you are, is how fast you can take off. And for someone who doesn't know what they don't know, it may take a longer time, longer runway. And so you need that capital to live on, to run the business while you're getting started.
Right. Yeah. Starting off a business with no money, but starting off a business with no money is not a super easy, fun thing to do. But a worse thing on top of that is start off a business with no money, but a decent amount of access to debt. And then, you start spiraling downhill, and then you're
Yeah,
done.
yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things, that people have told me. I agree. Kind of been a Dave Ramsey, follower that,
Mm-hmm.
as well as, I mean, we do have some personal debt, like
Sure.
limit your debt,
Yeah.
because, and here's another thing, the way that I look at debt, and this came from another agent I talked to, advances. Do you guys do like advances on the PNC side?
Can you
Like
clarify that?
policies, like if you write a policy, do you get the full year and then you get
Oh,
a charge back?
yeah.
Or
Usually with most companies, it's upfront.
yeah, yeah. And so that was one of the choices that I made early on, is I do all as earned. And so
Okay.
I don't get any advances on any of my business.
Okay.
Um, which you would think, starting out from scratch, you'd want those advances. And I understand some people are like, hey, get those advances, reinvest them back in the business. But I also have another agent friend who was writing some life insurance policies, final expense, um, got caught up with a bunch of chargebacks. And then he's like chasing his tail now because he spent that money to write more business
Oh,
to
yeah.
cover the chargebacks. And you know starting a business, switching careers, starting a business, all of these things are stressful, stressful personally, stressful, in your professionally, stressful in your family life. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would say, any of the ways that you can eliminate or reduce stress, because you're going to be stressed out, like out of your
Right.
mind, trying to
Right.
get this, like, why add extra stress if you don't have to.
So, so you started, you you're made the decision to focus on health and life.
Mhm.
So what next? So you got your carrier appointment.
Well, that's a funny thing that, carrier appointments. I totally remember we had already had this vacation planned right when I got started. We were actually a Grand Canyon vacation trip, and I was connecting with the my FMO, the person that I get my contracts through.
What
Like,
does FMO mean?
it's a field marketing organization, and the life and it's sort of like an aggregator on the
Okay,
PNC side, but it's
gotcha.
life and health. On the life and health side, pretty much you always get your contract through someone else.
Yep.
Rarely do you get direct carrier appointments.
Okay.
Um, so I was talking to him. I said, "Hey, I got my license. I got my E&O. Like, I mean, who knew I needed E&O? I mean, what is
Right.
that? And
Right.
so, um, and I said, "Hey, I'm ready to go, right? And they're like, "Oh, well, you're not appointed by any carriers yet."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, how long does that take?" So, and it's like another couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
before I get some appointments, And so you're just like, "Are you kidding me?" It's just like all the, like, what else don't I know?
Yeah.
So I
Right.
get my carrier appointments, um, and then so this kind of interesting now that I'm thinking back on it. The first month I focused on Medicare. After I got my appointments, the first month I focus all on Medicare, right?
Okay.
And Medicare is like it can be a longer buying window, because it's not until that person, generally, if you're doing turning 65, until they turn 65 that they're ready to buy. So I get like no sales the first month. So here we are. Yay. First month, no sales.
Right.
And so I'm starting to sweat it a little bit. We have a rental house that I think, okay, if we get that sold by the end of the first month, now we have a little bit of capital. The first month, because or I get an offer, then like one that's sold by the end of the second month. There are no offers. Okay, so now I'm starting to sweat it. So I'm like, you know what? If I sell some life insurance, that pays, pretty quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I get some immediate cash going. And so I spend the second month focusing in on life insurance. Okay.
Okay.
Actually made some life insurance sales. Actually, some of those sales that I made in that second month are the biggest commissions that I've made yet. I mean, I landed some nice business accounts.
So where are you? So you get your appointments. Where now are you actually going to sell? Like, who are you selling to?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's the one of the hardest things, and it's one of the four things that a agency owner has to figure out is that I call it marketing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I didn't know. I had no idea who to go to at that point. I didn't know how to connect with with anyone. I didn't have a storefront. I didn't know how to do marketing. I didn't. So I was just selling to um, just friends and family, doing that, Project 100,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
doing my natural market and talking to people, maybe doing some posts on Facebook, asking for referrals anytime I would sell a policy. But so I got into that end of that second month, and I got to that third month, and I realized, crap, like I took a whole month off selling Medicare. I'm no further ahead on Medicare, which is my
Yeah.
core product.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, you realize you're taking the pedal, your foot off the gas pedal, and you have no momentum in those early days. It's like I got to focus. I got to get things moving forward.
So the advice behind that is you can't lose sight of continuing to market or prospect for the thing that you're focusing on, right? Like and that's like the sales cycle, the peaks and the valleys, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You go through the peaks of like writing all this business. During that time, you can't prospect, or you choose not to. You choose to focus on all the business you're writing, and then your sales go down, and you have time and you prospect. So yeah, anyway. Sorry, go ahead. I just hit the mic.
Um, so yeah, and I think along with that, not only do you have that sales cycle roller coaster. I had another friend who's a business owner, and he's like, being an entrepreneur is like being on a roller coaster, because one day you are on top of the world. You think, I've got this, I got the bull by the horns, and then you go a day, a week, a month without making any sales, and then you're just like, you be down and you're up and down and up, and it can be pretty rough
Yeah.
in that.
And what you just said about, being an entrepreneur. So I think 99% of people who start in insurance, I probably wouldn't classify them as an entrepreneur. I would probably say that they pretty much like own their job. Because usually it's just you. You're sitting
Sure.
there doing everything you can, working as hard as you can. But the things that I feel like are super entrepreneurial, like thinking outside of the agency, outside the box, and working on the business, it's really tough to do that right up front. I feel like you have to kind of get everything rolling, have enough renewal commissions or clients that are already there coming in and that you can count on to be able to really kind of take a step back, hire some people. But there's probably two different camps of thought in that. I know agents who have started off, had, hired 5 staff right away, 5 producers, and just gone for it and have succeeded. And I've known
Mm-hmm.
ones that have failed. And but anyway, definitely starting by yourself, the slow and steady growth. I don't know. To me, it seems like that's a really easy. I would say the correct way to do it, but it seems to be the way most people grow, starting off by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So this is, what I would say. I have kind of my list of 4 things that I think someone needs to know to start an insurance agency.
Sweet,
Uh,
let's go. Number one.
yeah. I mean, let's see. I don't know if these are in order necessarily, but these are the 4 things. Like, number one, you have to have product knowledge.
Okay.
Like, you have to know what you're selling, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's Medicare. For others, it might be P&C, personal lines, commercial. Know your niche, know your risk. And so you have to know that, and it feeds your sales ability if you know what you're talking about. It also feeds your service. It helps you write good business, which is another tip, that we'll talk about later. Is writing good business is important. So you got to know your product. You've got to know how to sell. And selling, I think it's totally different from knowing your product and being able to sell your product.
Right.
And then, so product knowledge, knowing how to sell, marketing, knowing how to, yeah, I would say the number one thing that I've struggled with is marketing and getting in front of people. And I think a lot of new agents are like, if I can just get in front of someone, I can make the sale, but they don't know where the people are at, how to get in front of them, maybe don't have the funds to do a lot of marketing. And so that's a tough one. And then the fourth one is kind of business systems and processes.
Yeah.
And knowing how, like, how do I submit business? How do I file, CRMs, all that kind of stuff.
So and I mean, a lot of that stuff just comes through experience, right? Through
Sure.
going through the day to day. So it's really hard to kind of start off with some of that stuff. But
Well,
one of the,
yeah, go
with
ahead.
your first three things that you
Mhm.
said, one of the things that's a thread, I think, through all that is actually having some belief in what you're selling,
Yeah.
because how do you sell something that you don't really believe in? I mean, I'll say when I started in insurance, I didn't I didn't really believe in it. I wasn't like, I didn't think that what we did was better than what somebody else did.
Hmm.
So at that time it was just, and some insurance whatever, some industries are different than others, right? So like with final expense or Medicare, I don't know, maybe it's different than P&C. P&C is my world. And so and one of the things is don't sell on price, right? You got to sell on
Hmm.
value. If you sell on price, they'll leave on price. And so
Right.
that is literally, I feel like, all I had when we started, because I didn't believe in it. I didn't know all the ins and outs. I didn't know what the pitfalls were for somebody. And so when we started, it was just price, price, price. And man, I don't think many of those people are still with us, but it was all I had to go off of. So I mean, personally, I think what you're saying is true. And I think that, really learning the product, but also learning how to sell it, like what pitfalls are people going to come, showing people the pain points that they might have in the future if they don't buy your products as opposed to somebody else's, or this option as opposed to that option. Totally agree with that.
I'll say, like, I think number one, like, sales and being, like, the ability to sell solves a lot of the other issues short term.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have good business systems and processes, and you have business that's falling off the backside, well, if you can sell a few more policies to make up for it, you can outrun those shortcomings.
Hmm.
If you don't know all of, everything about a product, but you know enough about it and you're able to sell it, you will learn the product knowledge. So I would say solid sales foundation. And what you said is, how do you get those when you're just starting? Well, you may not have them, but on the other hand, like, some of this stuff is transferable. And so if you have a background in sales, like, this is just another product. If you have a background in business, well, you can adapt some of the systems and processes that you have, picked up along the way. And the one that I am jealous of the most are the agency owners who are in a multi-generational, family business, where they grew up with it, and it's just in their blood,
Yeah.
they've got the experience.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. They grew up in it. Totally. So, okay. So, um, let's go now to maybe a second piece of advice that you would have for a newer agent. Like, what do
so
you
yeah,
think people should know?
okay. This is a piece of advice I give a lot of people who are wanting to start a business, whether it's insurance or not. And it kind of goes back to the money thing. I say, take a step, not a leap. Okay. And what I mean by that is, if you can start building your business, and that's what I wish, like, if we're thinking about, like, what do I wish, like, I would have been able to do, before I jumped in, I wish I would have had a little more of a runway. 6 months.
Okay.
Let's say if I started 6 months before my previous job ended, getting my license, getting my appointments, starting to learn the product, starting to meet with people, building that sales funnel. And so the whole idea of, if you just quit your job and start a business, what's the likelihood? I don't know what the stat is on new businesses or, new insurance agencies failing,
It's
right?
high. It's
Yeah.
high.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, cash out their retirements to start businesses. They cash out, homes or whatnot. If you're investing this much money into a business, you want to make sure it's going to succeed. And the best way to know that you're going to succeed is to, I think, build it, maybe while you're still working another job.
Sure. Like a side
us,
hustle.
Yeah, side hustle. Like in my family, we're a single income family.
Yeah.
And so but if you can have like a sugar mama, or a sugar daddy, at
Yeah.
home that can keep, the lights on.
That's another
really,
show. How to get yourself a sugar mama or a
there you
sugar
go.
daddy.
There you go. And just like you said, as a side hustle, being an entrepreneur or a business owner means, and this, means putting in really long hours.
Yep, totally. At
And
least
if
at
you're not,
first.
what's that?
At least at first, for sure.
Yeah. And if you're not willing to put in like a second shift after you've already worked, at a different business job, whatever it is, if you're not willing to work in the evenings and on the weekends, like while you have that income coming in to start your business, like you're probably not going to like starting a business,
Right.
because it takes a ton of time.
I would say too, one of the things to piggyback on that is, if you're married, you've got to get the buy-in from your spouse before you go do something like that, because they've got to, and you, hopefully you have a realistic expectation of what it's going to look like, and you can communicate that to them, because they got to be on board. I mean, if they're not, it's not going to last.
Yeah.
Ken Wakeham said, stay lean and avoid the shiny things, right?
Yeah.
So that shiny object syndrome, man, that's a tough one. That is really tough.
Let me tell you about a failure that I had on that. Excuse me. Right. So we kind of working our way somewhere around that third or fourth month. I was like, I need to, excuse me.
Don't go dying on me, Jason.
I know, right?
Mid show.
Good thing I do have life insurance.
Okay, nice.
I was getting desperate to get in front of people, and I didn't know how to do it. And along came a program that was, it kind of like, you're going to get leads at a super low cost. It's going to be good. You go, just pay us, this many, pretty, lofty price. So I borrowed the money from my folks. I did the buy-in, spent literally, like, in the whole program, thousands of dollars. I think I closed like 3 sales, off it. And so that whole staying lean, I think, and here's the thing, I'm not going to say that program was bad. It just wasn't right for me at the time. Maybe someone else who had better systems and processes in place, or someone who had the better ability to sell, could have made more of it.
Yeah,
but
I've
for
heard
me,
that.
it was wrong at the time.
I've heard that quite a few times. I think that, like, I don't know. I think there's some group of evil geniuses, or not evil, nice geniuses, let's put it that way, that communicate frequently, because I keep hearing, if you have a system to bring in a ton of leads, that's great. But if you don't have the systems and processes to actually deal with all that, it's going to just blow up, and it's going to highlight the fact that you don't have a good sales process. So getting that sales process in place first before you start going gangbusters on leads, probably the smart way to do it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And here's another little thing that I learned, along the way. um, I knew right away, like I was just learning it all. And I said, so I gave myself permission to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, you know what? You're going to have to burn a few leads before you figure out how to set an appointment.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to burn a few appointments before you learn how to make a sale.
Yeah.
And you'll probably, although this doesn't sound great, you'll probably burn a few sales before you learn how to service. You
Yep.
know,
Probably.
um, and so just like being comfortable with that, I think is really important.
Yeah. Um, okay. So avoid the shiny object syndrome,
Hmm.
right? Avoid the shiny
Sure.
things. But you know, I agree with that. I do 100%,
Hmm.
especially
Hmm.
somebody who loves technology. Like I absolutely love
Yeah.
technology. And so it's so easy for me to think that would be really fun to play with and to implement. And then, I end up with 10 things that I'm playing with and not
Sure.
implementing.
Right.
Um, but there are things that are good to spend money on, right? I mean, obviously there's,
Yeah. Absolutely.
a good CRM, a good, whatever, staff, all these other things. I don't know that you necessarily need like a drone to take a picture of your, the front of your building when you're just starting out, so maybe not that, but things things that are going to actually help you grow and sell more and all that kind of stuff are great. But when you're starting off, what do you have any advice for people on maybe what to focus on as far as your money and what to not focus on, what to forego?
Yeah. That's good. That's a really good question. Um, so I would say like a number one tip is to focus your energy on selling activities. Those activities that are leading towards sales, whether that's prospecting, following up on leads, quoting, presenting.
Yep.
And and so let's say there's some sort of a service and it costs 150 bucks a month, whatever that is, and it saves you 5, 10 hours a week, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Well, that's going to free you up to be making more sales, right? In theory.
Yes.
Now, here's the deal. Like, if spending that money is going to allow you to make more sales and you have the opportunity to make more sales, you're actually going to be doing it. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
But if, because one of the things that a new business owner has is time.
Yep.
I mean, we do have more time than, because as that business grows, you're going to be busier. So let's say you make that expenditure, and this is the problem with, like, one expenditure is not a big deal, but sometimes when you're, start tacking on, so, let's say you're doing like some sort of a lead gen and you've got, a landing page and you've got a Zapier and you've got, an automation, and you've got ringless voicemail, and you've got these, they
Right.
stack up, now all of a sudden you're spending a bunch of money because of a lot of them. If you could, let's say if you're not going to be making sales during that time anyway, like for me personally, I would save the money and build it out. If there was a less expensive way to build it out, but at that point where you do have the opportunity to be making sales, then go ahead and spend the money on the service to save you the time.
I
I
think,
didn't know somebody had said even VAs.
yeah,
VAs
yeah.
are a good way to increase your ability.
Right. But right when you're starting out, I don't know that a VA is what you should do, right? It's like if, like you said, if hiring a VA or buying the system or this product is going to free you up to actually sell more, and you actually use that time to sell more and pay for those things or almost pay for those things, then great, do it, But like, again, like what you said, the one thing we have when you start out is time. And
So,
so,
yeah, I would go
yeah,
back to the four things. Those four skills: product knowledge, marketing, how to sell, business systems and processes. I put people in two camps. If you come in to business, agency ownership with a decent, maybe you're coming from, working in an agency and now you're going to go out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a good handle on those, I am more inclined to tell you to pour money on the business.
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable with someone, whether, maybe it is to hire a VA right off the bat, to follow up with leads, to do telemarketing, to call, set appointments for you, if they know how to sell, if they know how
Yeah.
to do some of the closing. And so that's two groups. If you don't know what you're doing, definitely slow down. Someone
Yep.
in the comments said, to here, where is it? I thought I just saw that. About oh, right here. Where'd it go? Yeah, Ken Wycombe, stay lean. Oh yeah, he said, avoid the shiny things. So just staying lean in what you're doing.
He
So
also said the sugar mama game works.
yeah, I mean,
But one of the things you also said is focus on the activities that make you money, the money-making activities. And I have I'll call him a business coach, and that's his big thing, right? You've got to set aside that time to do those tasks that actually make you money. If you're not, they end up getting pushed to the back, and you get focused on other things. Unless you actually schedule that in, you're going to end up losing those opportunities.
Absolutely.
And I that's, whether you're just starting out or whether you're a 10-year in agent, right? That's good advice right there. Anybody, what makes you money? What are the activities that make you money? Schedule those things in and do them every day.
Yeah. Along those lines, one of the books that I read early on was Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. And in there, the thing that really struck a chord to me was, he said you have like a 30-day like lag on your leads. And so like if you're not closing business today, it's not because of the prospecting you did or didn't do yesterday, but it's what you did 30 and 60 days ago.
Oh yeah.
And so, let's say, here we are in February. If you took the whole month of January off, you were working on the business and not in the business. You're working on those systems and processes, but you weren't prospecting. Chances are you burned through your pipeline of deals that you had in the pipe, and now you're going to be back. You're going to be struggling in the next month. So.
Yeah. So someone commented this, and I have to retouch on it because
Sure.
it's kind of an important thing. Joey said, "How dare you say drones aren't practical?" Joey, drones are practical for people who are, going to actually use them. It's not a shiny object, but yes, I can't wait till I can get a drone. So anyway, I got to talk to Craig. Craig Pretzinger, that's the last name. He's got some sort of drone pilot program. We're going to talk later, but shout out to him. He's an Allstate agent in Arizona. Awesome. Yeah. So if you don't know him, he's a good guy to know.
Along those lines, what I would say is like, you don't have to have a drone. You just need a friend with a drone.
Oh, true.
And so that would be another one of my tips, is use what you have. I had this laptop, dude. I had this laptop for 7 years, and I hated it. It was so old and it was beat up, but I just couldn't. It still worked. It still worked fine. I couldn't justify going and buying a new laptop until I needed a touchscreen this last year for some business to write. So I had to upgrade, but I was, lugging that heavy old laptop around to these old people's houses, and breaking it out, and it worked, and so there's this idea of, as a business owner, you have to delay gratification on
Hmm.
so many levels.
True.
I mean, you just have to have that discipline to put the hours in, to work when you don't want to work, to do the stuff you don't want to do. And sometimes we want to reward ourselves by that shiny object, that
Yep.
flashy thing, that piece of technology, when you know it doesn't always make sense. um, and another thing, a big expense for people is space, right?
Yeah.
Office space.
Yep.
Ask yourself if you really need office space. Do you need, so much more of our business is being conducted virtually. I mean, I think
Yeah.
you told me a couple weeks ago, I mean, pretty much all of your business is done virtually, right?
Yeah. I mean, if somebody I mean, maybe 0.5% of our clients will actually come to the office.
Yeah. And
We don't
so,
we don't accept cash in our office or checks. So that kind of cuts down on a lot of that.
yeah, yeah, that's the weirdest thing. Like in our line of business, like I don't know, in Medicare, we never, like, everything is direct with the carrier. So I'm like, that whole idea of accepting money, I'm like, that's the worst idea for me,
Yeah.
because I would like put it in my pocket, and
Oh
then
yeah, yeah.
like, because I'm out and about. My office is my car, and I'm trying to get more virtual as well and sell over the phone and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. One of the things, so I think it'd be if we didn't talk about getting free marketing from using social media, we'd be, missing a huge part of starting a business. And so definitely people need to be posting frequently, but not just salesy product stuff. Like
Mhm.
nobody cares. Do something where people can kind of go along for the ride with you, right? So
Mhm.
that it's enjoyable, it's fun, but it still like kind of showcases what you're doing. One thing with social media that I would highly, highly suggest is find people in the industry you're in and find the people who are where you want to be or who are influencers in that industry and pursue those people, not annoyingly, but, pursue them like you would, I don't know, a girlfriend or a boyfriend or, something like that. Like be, um, intentional with your time spent on social media. Don't just get caught up watching Facebook videos. Man, that is so hard. And it's like YouTube. You just, an hour later, what just happened? Um, but yeah, I would say do that. That's like, and get to know those people and find out what's working for them, what has worked for them, ask for advice on how to get to where they are.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And so here's a couple of examples. I would say, like, take advantage of every opportunity that comes in front of you. Now, yeah, let's qualify that. Maybe, maybe not, but like really bias towards saying yes to opportunities.
Yeah.
Um, and so here's three. I'll give me three examples of opportunities that I jumped on that has worked out.
Okay.
So first off, this is kind of a funny story. Um, I mean, I was brand new. Oh my gosh, I must have been just a handful of months in, and I had a guy who I had some contracts with had invited. He was having some meetings at a carrier's national headquarters, right?
Okay.
And he said, "Hey, they're rolling out this program. We're have some great opportunities. Like, I want you to come and be a part of it." There's only about a handful of us there. And so I'm in Indiana. This is in Pennsylvania, you know? And so,
How far a drive is that?
oh man, it's probably 6 hours,
Okay. Okay.
And so I say, okay, yeah, I'll go. And so
Right.
we go, we show up, and And the guy's like, he's like talking about, this guy, he's a monster, saying that I'm like this big, sales, monster. I'm like, I'm just brand new, but
You're darn right.
yeah, you know it, and but just this week, um, I had that same carrier called me up and said, "Hey, we had someone who called in direct to us who's looking for a policy. Can you take care of them?" And I was like,
Nice.
I can.
Yeah.
Um, Another
Obviously,
one,
I'm the sales beast.
yeah, I mean, that's what I do. I close business,
That's right.
And then not that long ago, I saw a guy um, who is involved in online marketing. He's got a course. He does a lot of training, and he was talking to someone, and they said, "Hey, let's do coffee sometime." He offered coffee to this other agent,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, you do not know how fast I direct messaged him. I said, "Hey, I'll do coffee," and
Yeah.
then he's like, 3 hours away, right?
Yeah.
And so literally like 2 days later, I get up 5 o'clock in the morning and get in my car and drive over and have coffee with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's opened up opportunities. It's opened up opportunities for me to be involved in his group. And
Yeah.
I'm also I'm taking a leadership role in that online lead generation group, which is a lot of fun. The last one I would say is the Innovation 19 conference.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. So I got a scholarship, that
Yep.
pays for the registration,
Yep.
and but it doesn't cover, travel, lodging,
Totally.
car, there's some of that stuff. And as the days got closer, like we started, rented a car, rented a hotel,
Yep.
you know, I paid for the pre-registration because I wanted to get in on some of that stuff. And I really had this sense that I was like, I'm spending more money than I can comfortably justify.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? I'm investing in myself. I'm investing in my business. The relationships that I was able to develop, that I was able to build, the people I got to know. And it's not been that long, but I already see, benefits from my time being there.
So
So
so your advice would be on that to not just necessarily look at things that are right in front of you, but maybe also spend your time and money on things that are going to benefit you down the road.
yeah, so that was, man, that was a big struggle for me because there's this, I see this building the business on like two levels, right? So on like the bottom level, you just need to make sales.
Yeah.
You need to make money. I need today money.
Right. Right.
I need, because everyone, well, the holy grail of business is referral business, right? You
Yep.
know, I've got a lot of friends who are in my space who spend $0 a year on marketing,
Yep.
100% referral based business, and they're doing really well at it. Well, you can't do that day one. You can't do that in the first year. And so, a lot of people I talk to are like, "Oh, you need to develop referral partners. You
Right.
need to find the people who can refer you business." I'm like, "Yes, but I also need to make money today." And
Totally. You got to
so,
feed your family and pay your
yeah,
bills.
yeah. And so you've got to balance, building your business on both levels.
Yeah. On that note, I would say it is, again, like you have to be intentional with that time that you're spending building your business for the future, because it's so easy. And, with that, usually that involves getting to know or meeting other people who are in positions that are beneficial to you, or that you
Mhm.
can be beneficial to them, right? And get referrals or past referrals or whatever. But it's so easy to have those meetings and those conversations and just like not do anything with it, right? Just to kind of like kind of get a friend and another
Yeah.
acquaintance, and it doesn't actually, you don't ever actually talk about anything. I'm not saying have a meeting and go for the throat, right? But I'm just saying, like, you gotta have that in mind. You can't just go and waste your time. I know there's this joke, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I mean, the idea of it is that, like, that all insurance agents' spouses must make a lot of money because there's so many stinking insurance agents that just kind of hang out all the time, and like always drinking coffee, but never really doing anything. And so, I would just, on that, I would say you just got to be intentional with your time.
Yeah, what I would recommend is, is finding and seeking that out, and
Yeah.
just say, Facebook, we've got, all these online technology, which I want to circle back on that for a second, but, you know, find two or three agents who are maybe around where you're at, or maybe one of them that wants to be like a mentor, and set up a weekly or every other week kind of accountability challenge mastermind, and be that person that says, hey guys, it's fun to hang out, but like let's put the heat on, and challenge each other to
For
really
sure.
grow the business. 'Cause you can create that so easy.
Yeah, for
uh,
sure. So you want to touch on technology. Let's talk about that. And let's let this kind of be unless somebody chimes in with a
yeah.
comment that they'd like us to talk about, or, they want us to touch on it. Great. But let's talk about technology. I think we're like coming close on 50 minutes. So let's talk
Yeah.
technology, and let's try to wrap this up.
Yeah. um I know we said that you can get we can get like enamored with all this technology, right?
Totally.
And we get lost in technology, we get buried. You can spend a week or a month building out automations, and so you do have to be careful about that. But I think back to agents that conversations I've had with agents who've been in the business like 50 and 60 years.
Holy
And
cow.
you know what I'm saying? I got
Yeah.
a guy, a friend of mine. He's like, I think he just had his 80th birthday, and last I knew, he's still in the office every day. You
Wow.
know, 50 plus years in the business, and he tells me about how he set this rule for himself that he had to be out of the house every day by like 7 o'clock. And
Hmm.
he said, even if I didn't have an appointment to go to, I was going down to the diner and having coffee. And I think maybe that's something that we could have talked about, is having schedules and setting appointments. I know some people, even if they're working from home, if they're younger especially, and they need that discipline, like they get up, they take a shower, they get dressed for
Totally.
work. I think that's,
Yeah.
if you need that, that's a good thing to do. But the technology that is at our fingers, it's remarkable. Whether it's, you talk about posting on Facebook and having a strategy for posting on Facebook, talking about all organic. Yeah, you totally, like, I started a life insurance organic posts, and got several quotes that I put out just in a week or two, just by making some videos. And while we're on the topic of videos, everybody has a video camera in their pocket that
Yeah.
is more than capable of creating content for social media.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite online tech resources that you're using? Low cost tech.
Oh, geez. I feel like I pay for everything nowadays. Zapier is a tool that has a really super solid free option. That if you haven't looked into that can save you a ton of time, or at least, you know, maybe not save you a ton of time, but do things that you don't necessarily have to think about that much.
Totally.
I would say right now, that's my biggest, coolest thing that I love is Zapier. Um,
I'm really liking Loom.
oh yeah, Loom's cool too. Any screen recording,
Mhm.
software. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you can use Loom to create video proposals email. Like, I mean, there are video proposal, services that
Oh
are
yeah.
pretty inexpensive, surprisingly, which are awesome. I wouldn't, discourage, but start off by creating an email template and create a Loom, embed that Loom. Uh, some awesome stuff there. Google Docs. Do you use Google Docs for anything?
I don't use Google for
Okay.
anything. I should.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Google hater.
I'm
Uh,
not a hater. I use it for my personal email, but that's it.
okay. Yeah, I created a intranet, that
Oh,
I
you did do that. I saw you talking about that.
yeah, on Google Sites. That stuff is awesome. What I did, I create a repository for all of my carriers, all my processes. So if I have a question that I don't want to have to keep asking, I just put it up there and I have a good resource to go to.
Yep, totally. Yeah, and so last week when I had Troy Thompson and Wes Anderson on, we talked about a decent amount of different programs. And one of the things that Joey just reminded me is Calendly, like having
Sure.
some sort of calendar thing to share it with people so you don't have to go back and forth, Acuity, Calendly. Actually, one of my friends from Seattle started Bookify. That's another one. It's great. Anyway, anyone, test them all. I think they all have a free option. Test them all, see what works best. But yeah, anyway, man, we are coming up on an hour here.
Yeah.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us on here. If you want to find out more about what we're doing, check us out at www.bluelioninsurancepartners.com. Jason, thank you so much. So Denniston Insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Indiana.
Right.
And how can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way you can, we're all over the place on all the, Facebook, but DennistonInsurance.com.
Yep.
We're licensed in multiple states and do primarily Medicare, a little bit of life insurance. So if you do have questions, Medicare is a little bit tricky thing for a lot of people. If you have questions or you need help with a case, I'd be more than happy to help you out, get a good answer.
And you said before we finish, so also people, why don't you quickly, maybe like 2 minutes or less, tell us about the program that you've work with. Daniel?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So if there are any Medicare or, final expense guys that watch this that are interested, they can tap into that resource because, man, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So I have been involved in this. I'm actually involved in 2 different training courses, and I recommend them both very highly. And that's kind of where I would maybe leave off is like eventually, like, invest back. Invest in yourself. Invest in those trainings. Once you have leveled up on those 4 things, go ahead and spend some money and get involved in these, whether it's these or another. But these are both, for me, I knew the things that I needed to learn was more along the lines of the marketing and automation and getting in front of people. And so these courses have been super incredibly helpful for me. So the one is client acquisition for insurance agents. So if you just do a search for that on Facebook, client acquisitions for insurance agents. I'm coaching in that group now and really loving it. We're helping agents of all stripes learn about Facebook advertising and automation, helping you get those leads generated. I'm also just a class member in the Made You Look marketing with Nick Ayers, and so learning more about how to create that video content and using that on different platforms, primarily Facebook and YouTube. So I would highly recommend getting involved in both of those courses.
Nice.
if you're looking to learn how to create more lead generation and get in front of more people.
Cool. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Jason. Everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week. Next week should be pretty fun. I'm having two fairly recently departed captive agents that have moved over to the independent side, and we're going to talk about pros and cons of going from captive to independent for PNC. Should be really interesting. So anyway, thanks again. See you guys
Yeah,
next
thank
week.
you.